And we are physically open to the public now, huh?
No.
Oh,
The last meeting, I was supposed to determine how many people, if we had to do 6 foot apart, could we fit. So the internal capacity plus 7 down the hall is 17 total at 6 foot spacing. However, I think that 6 foot spacing is going to go away and we would be able to go to normal capacity, but I just did the worst versus best case scenario.
There we go.
Well,
Okay.
likely. I don't know the answer yet. Jim, did you tell us we're recording and good to go?
We are recording.
Okay, thank you.
all right. So it's 7:04 and we will call the meeting to order. Roll call. Oh, no, sorry, pledge of allegiance. Whew, man. And in the absence of Pat, who normally leads us, Craig, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now we can do roll call. Kathy, please.
Mayor Bean,
Here.
Councilmember Chapman,
Here.
Councilmember Furby, Councilmember Scanlon is excused, Councilmember Scoot.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Next item is public comment. So if there is anyone on Zoom who would like to provide public comment, you'll have 5 minutes. You'll need to use the raise your hand feature and Jim will unmute you. Jim, is there anyone on for public comment?
Yes, Your Honor, we do have a hand up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can you turn them, hold on, I can't hear you. Can you turn the volume up a little bit? Okay, greetings, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm Robin Baird. If I'm not sure if I know everyone there, but I wanted to comment on a package. I had requested to be on the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I still request to be on the agenda for tonight's meeting. I've been denied that by the city manager and also by Kathy Smith. And I assume possibly Mayor, you are aware of that as well, because I've been in a meeting with you. I have some concerns that I wanted to voice. This is the second year in a row that I have come to the mayor and council members concerning some ordinance issues and other kinds of things that are of concern as a person doing business in the city of Ishpeming. And the response to the meeting that I requested, and Mayor Bean and Councilman Chapman attended, along with 5 other residents of the city of Ishpeming. We did receive a response to some of that. However, we felt that response was unprofessional and did not even address the issues. Some of the issues that we had concerning ordinances had to do with the water supply and backflow preventers and life and health safety issues. And we didn't feel like those items were addressed appropriately or at all by the response. In fact, Mayor Bean's response was not even on letterhead as the mayor. It was signed, sent and signed personally. And I'm just wondering, as a business person, what's happening here in the city when you have ordinances which are law, and a person that is doing business in the city is trying to adhere to those ordinances and ensure that those things are met because that they've been noticed by your city officials, yet no one wants to assist in having those ordinances met and maintained. And I guess the question that we all have is if everyone is able to do what is right in their own eyes, despite your ordinances, and those aren't going to be assisted when we request assistance and making sure that those are complied with, then I guess where are we? It's of great concern. We have a lot of issues, as you know, with water in Flint, and yet you have a situation here that we brought to your attention and have ignored it. Yet it doesn't make any sense. And I'm just wondering, and as these other 5 people are wondering, who is it that we go to if our elected council is not going to assist us and is not going to maintain the ordinances in the city and is not going to make sure that they're maintained? I don't know if each of you council members received the package that I dropped off for you, but I did drop off a package. I'm not aware if that had been copied to you, but if you ask Kathy Smith and Mayor Bean and Councilman Chapman, I'm sure that they would each have a copy of that package. And I would hope that you would review that. And I hope that you would open some dialogue so that these things can be addressed in a meaningful way.
Thank you, Robin. Your 5 minutes is up.
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments. Your items have not been added to this evening's agenda, so thank you for your public comment. Jim, is there
Will
anyone
you
else?
add them to the agenda?
No, we're not adding it to the agenda. So,
Will you add it next
Jim,
month?
if there's anyone else on the line for public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand.
I'm not seeing any other hands, Your Honor.
Right. Okay, so if there's anyone else on who would like to provide public comment, go ahead and raise your hand. Otherwise, we will close public comment.
I do not see any other hands, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then we will close public comment. And I suppose for the benefit of anyone who's watching, there was a packet that was furnished. It was provided to other council members. There was nothing in that packet that appeared to be actionable by the council to be added to the agenda. So it was not. All right, and with that, we will move on to the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda with one amendment, pulling out the Standard and Poor's rating from the consent agenda.
Where would you like to place that, somewhere else?
We can just, just place it right below the consent agenda. I think would be fine.
Okay. So what do we make that, 7.5?
Sure.
Item 7.5 becomes consented, or I'm sorry, the Standard and Poor's rating. Okay. Is there a second for that? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to agenda comment. If there's anyone who wishes to provide comment on an item on the agenda, please go ahead and use the raise your hand feature. You'll have 3 minutes to provide comment on a specific item on the agenda. Jim, is there anyone on for agenda comment?
I do not see any hands, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, last call for agenda comment. If you would like to speak for 3 minutes on an item on the agenda. And if there are no hands, then we will close agenda comment.
I still do not see any hands, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, and then moving on to the consent agenda, which contains 2 items now. A, the minutes of previous meeting, May 5th, May 18th, and closed session for May 18th. And then item B, approval of disbursements. And I do actually have to say that I was approached about those minutes because they do need to go back and have a look at that section to be clear that the notes accurately reflect the discussion and vote that took place on that.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with pulling the May 5th minutes.
All right. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we'll add those with the correction then to next month's, correct? All right. Okay, moving on to item 7.5, the City of Ishpeming Standard & Poor's rating, and I will pass that over to Mr. Lampman for an explanation.
Thank you, Your Honor. So as part of the recent 2021 refunding bond that the city's been working on, one of the requirements was having review of the city's bond credit rating. And while this is not an actionable item this evening, I thought it was worth noting that Standard & Poor's, which is one of the premier credit rating agencies out there, has revised the city's bond rating from an A stable to an A with a positive outlook. Some of the things that they commented on in the report for their reason for upgrading to a positive outlook were strong management, strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility, and very strong liquidity. They said that they would look possibly at upgrading us further to an A+ rating within the next couple of years if we can get our plan for our pension obligation follow through with our pension obligation bond plan. So basically, they just want to pause right now. They're giving us a positive outlook, and within probably 2 to 3 years, relook at us and possibly, if the conditions warrant it, increase our bond rating a little further. So I just wanted that to be out there publicly that we do have a positive outlook for our bond rating.
All right, awesome.
Just a quick comment to that, Your Honor. I just want to thank the staff and the city manager for their work. I mean, and you, Jim, reflects very well on all of you to have our bond rating with a positive outlook. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Jim, for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Also, Jim, you have the next item with the monthly financial statement report.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. In your packet, you have the financial statements as of May 31st, 2021. As of that date, the city's pooled cash fund had a total balance of $7,445,296. Of that, the general fund share of pooled cash was $1,435,459. General fund had revenues totaling $1,517,877. Expenses of $1,251,238, resulting in net income of $266,639 and a fund balance of $1,177,598. The Major Street share of pooled cash was $969,644. Major Street had revenues totaling $357,461, expenses of $145,966, resulting in net income of $211,495 and a fund balance of $969,644. Local Street share of pooled cash was $184,707. Local Streets had revenues totaling $173,705, expenses of $120,685, resulting in a fund balance of $184,935. The Garbage Fund share of pooled cash was $211,593. Garbage Fund had revenues totaling $279,057, expenses of $218,746, resulting in a fund balance of $309,437. The Public Improvement share of pooled cash was $729,156. Revenues totaling $408,337, expenses of $88,719, resulting in net income of $319,617 and a fund balance of $669,535. Sewer Fund share of pooled cash was $1,587,905. Sewer Fund had revenues totaling $574,801, expenses totaling $520,913, resulting in net income of $53,887 and a fund balance of $9,716,533, of which $555,317 was unrestricted. And the Water Fund share of pooled cash was $1,539,112. Water Fund had revenues totaling $779,982, expenses totaling $698,209, resulting in net income of $81,773 and a fund balance of $8,978,713, of which $191,664 was negatively unrestricted.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Moving on to number 9, discussion of Mdot Category B grant application, including resolution number 7-2021 Mdot Category B funding program. Craig.
Just for, I just need to call a question to administrative. I think on the budget, you approve or receive.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to support the monthly financial statement as reported.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's usually Pat that's on it, so without the quick on the supporting, or quick on the motion. Okay, now we can move on to number 9.
So I'm gonna just preference the Mdot Category B grant application deadline was at the end of last week. So we have submitted a grant. However, there are some considerations to the budget that need to be discussed apart amongst the council. I didn't want to miss the deadline, so we asked the state if they would consider a late resolution. So Brian's gonna walk us through what we're recommending and how that ties to budget and items that we're looking at. Should the council choose not to support the budget items, we would pull the application for grant. Should you choose to support, then we would move to the item of resolution, which is a requirement for the packet. So it is in the state's hands being reviewed, but it is subject to your council decision, but we didn't want to miss an application window. So Brian, if you would step in and take over, please. And Jim, he'll need to be able to share screen.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Brian.
I believe, can you see my screen?
We can see it. It is very small.
Is that any better?
There we go.
One more plus was about right. You just have some scrolling to do.
There we go.
There you go.
So me and Craig talked a little bit. We looked at UPEA put together a road list based on their contract they had to review the roads. I had a list from, I think, 2019 that the council had put together of some roads around town that could use some repaving. So we compared both lists, looked for areas that had, that matched on both lists that we knew were in bad shape. And then we also looked at areas where the city could also do some utility work underneath, because that helps consideration for this Mdot Category B funding. So we looked at Prairie Avenue was listed on both lists, and that's a decent candidate because it has just sanitary underneath it. We looked at doing the sanitary, there's no water. So we looked at doing the complete road reconstruction there since it's in such bad shape. And then plus the sanitary sewer. Lower Bigelow Street, we just looked at doing a little bit of paving extension from the end of where the paving stopped for the RD water project to where the hydrant is. And then we also looked at Stone and Houghton Street being in such bad shape, but the sewer, there's clay sewer on there, but it's not terrible. So we'd look at lining the sewer. And we also looked at trying the water main lining. Tunnel Vision, we had a little presentation with the city and GEI and UPA, and Tunnel Vision said that they can line water main, but you still have to dig down and do all the water services. So we figured we had a good stretch there where there was not as many houses, so it'd be a good stretch to try the lining on. So then those two got added as well. And I'll go to, so just a quick map showing Prairie Avenue up in the 8th edition. Fairly wide road. Most of the roads up in 8th edition are, at least half of them got redone, which we can look at possibly doing the other half with some of the road money we have for this year yet. Mill and overlaying the other halves. Stone and Houghton Street, I don't know how many the council are familiar with those. They're pretty much gone. At least most of Stone Street might as well basically be a gravel. So Prairie, we're figuring a full reconstruction, sand and gravel. Stone and Houghton, we figured doing like a pulverizing, since we're going to do the lining for the utilities underneath. And then just that little extension of Bigelow Street is basically just adding a thin layer of gravel and paving the rest of it. So it came to and this is just the application. So some of the pictures we had to include. So the total cost for just the road work came to $427,400. So it's a 50-50 grant. So the city would kick in $213,700 and MDOT would match with a $213,700. All the utility costs, they look at it, we're looking at doing 2,200 feet of sanitary sewer lining, 108 vertical feet of sanitary sewer manhole lining, connecting 19 laterals, looking at doing 1,800 feet of water main lining, and reconnecting 11 water services, installing 6 hydrants, and some mainline valves. So the total estimated cost of utilities would be $387,975. So that's coming out of the city's sewer and water fund. That's not part of the grant match. But having utilities completed under the road makes this application a good candidate to be funded. Can't guarantee anything, but they tend to favor that. So basically the resolution is stating that the city has this $213,700, and if awarded the grant based on the resolution, they have that money they're going to provide.
And just to add a little more clarity, because I know it's really important here. The 387, and Brian, help me if you have this math worked out. We have funds in the sewer. We're not behind. We have that negatively restricted funding in water because we're continuing to pay off that water debt from the last project. So that water cost of $216,700 would likely have to be pulled from a general fund or a public improvement fund. This would be able to be pulled from 2022, doesn't have to be available in 2021. And then specifically to this grant, it is a 1-for-1 match, 50%. So what we're doing is we're doubling our math on the roadway work, getting an extra $213,000 in free money from the state to get that extra roadway. But what it does is it secures that Prairie is a complete system. The sanitary sewer is good, the water's good there. Roadway would now be complete. The Upper Bigelow was just done, or our Lower Bigelow, excuse me, was just done with the last water project. There was a section at the end of the street where we stopped at the hydrant. There's maybe 75 feet or so of continued pavement. One house is really affected, but it's a turnaround and gravel gets plowed and everything else into that one house's yard. And then the Stone Street, Houghton Street is a really big mess, but we just took a lot of action with the planning council and zoning to rezone most of that area from industrial to residential. There is still 1 property or 2 properties up there that is considered industrial, but we swept that area this spring, and it took 2 nights and 3 dump loads of silt and sand that comes down the hill. It comes out of Moyle, it comes out of Serve Pro and some other areas, and it just stacks up, and all those houses get dusted because there's just nothing but gravel in really poor condition. You're fixing all of their water, and they have clay sanitary, which we believe we can liner and protect that for another 80 years-ish, right? But I think the warranty is 50, but right now they're testing it overseas, and it's coming to 70, 80 years on these liners. So you're really getting whole system improvements for this. The cost out of the budget would be that $387,000 that we have to really consider about. Are we wanting to look at next year's budget and tap that water out of public improvement or general? It only happens if we get the grant, but we're committing to it in the grant if we go forward with the application. If we don't get the grant, then you're not out anything, but you don't gain that extra, the money there. And the roadway money is committed in 2021 right now under that various streets contract of up to $305,000 that's been awarded to GEI. So that's why they're doing this assessment and doing this programming for us. That 213 would be pulled back from that 305 and executed next year against this grant should it be awarded. If it didn't get awarded, they would work hard to get some projects done this year. If not, we just carry it over into the next year. But we would still be executing that roadway work using those funds. It's just a matter of balancing it, trying to maximize and leverage other resources to give us more buying power. So that's the entirety of it for Stu. Stu and former Mayor Tonkin had been in my office on several occasions with their list. This is our list of roads. Several of these roads were all on that list. UPEA has still working on the total roadway master plan, but they picked the worst of the roads to push towards this, and then Brian compared utilities. But the wardees are gonna win because they have utility services, and we're showing those efforts, so we should be competing well.
Perhaps Jim can weigh in with thoughts on capacity in the budget for this, wiggle room and so forth.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at 2022, I think there's capacity in the water and sewer funds that we could absorb those non-participating costs. Again, we'll have to look at the budget. Certainly we could continue with the public improvement fund to contribute towards road work as well. As Craig mentioned, for 2021, we had 300, I think it was 300,000 allocated out of public improvement fund going towards roads this year. So yeah, I think it's feasible if council wanted to move forward with this application. And as Brian stated, it's only applicable if we're awarded the grant. So,
Okay.
but I think it's a reasonable, 50-50 split. It's a lot of grant money to receive. So.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or any other comments? Discussion?
Everybody's kind of looking at me.
You sighed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to do this. I just think we need to figure out where the money is safest coming from. Because I think we really have an obligation to get these streets and the utilities done. So I think we just have to kind of figure out, in my opinion, where we would get the money from.
So the roadway money is already committed in 2021. It's moved to 2022. So you've already got that money available. You've already made that decision for 2021. We would be choosing to wait on the grant and determine whether we got that and move it. So you're really talking about that additional 387, and Jim's just reported that we have it in the water and sewer fund for next year.
Yeah,
So that's where that would come from right now, based on Jim's.
I was just wondering if it would be better to not pull all of it from one fund.
Well, I think we could probably make that decision at a later date. I
Okay.
don't think we have to make that now. We just that we would, there are places that it could come from that would cover it.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we pass the resolution as presented.
Okay, Stu supporting that. All right, so we have a motion to approve resolution number 7-2021 and hope that we get a grant so that we can maximize our dollars in street and utility repairs. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, Stu.
You get a copy of,
The grant application?
yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
point chart.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
Yes, I will. Brian, we're gonna send a copy of what you just presented to the council members tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and this is the exact application that we sent into Mdot, so yeah, it's,
Right, I know you have all the pictures and
Okay,
the
yeah.
mapping piece that we had already talked about, but that wasn't included in the email originally to me, so we'll just make sure that whole packet gets sent out tomorrow, please.
and would you like me to send that
Just send it to
map
me.
that
You
that
can
me
just
and you
send,
marked up, that UP map that we marked up to, would you like that?
yes, please.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for your description of that and input on that.
Yep.
All right, moving on to item number 10. I think this is probably going to put you back. Maybe Craig first.
Yeah, so we had been talking about water rates, and we had some presentations from both UPEA and GEI in the past. And the council had asked GEI to propose a sewer rate study in the past. And then following those meetings, we actually asked to conclude water and sewer in a rate. So they have now proposed a water and sewer rate study cost for us. It does not include trash, but we have just renewed that contract for 5 years on trash. We're pretty solid on what we know about the trash. And I should say this has not been budgeted for 2021. And so if you look at it and chose that you wanted to do something or go forward with it, we can start the planning, but we would have to choose where the money comes from, do a budget amendment in some way or another to actually execute that, or say we want to start it right away in 2022, however you want to look at it from the perspective of budget perspective. But this was just to make sure you had an opportunity to see what a rate study would cost us and how it would start to shape out.
Okay. So I'm glad that you said that you added in there the option to get it started right away in 2022. I think that, I don't know how others feel, but my thought is we've added a lot of things to 2021 so far this year, and we're halfway through the year, and this isn't an immediately pressing issue. I don't think there's any reason that it couldn't wait to start into 2022 and to be adequately budgeted and planned for. Does anyone else have thoughts on that? Stu's nodding, he likes that idea.
No.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion, or we don't even need to do anything on that then, do we now?
No, I mean, this will end up in the 2022 budget line items
Yep.
as a proposal to you on the budget.
Sounds
And
good.
then assuming it gets approved, Brian and I and GEI will start planning to execute really early in the year so that during some of those winter months, we can start having conversation and talking about the water rates right away, the sewer rates.
Sounds good. All right, thank you, Stu.
Are we doing officer one or officer two?
Well, that's part of your choices for the budget. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about that now, absolutely. But it's, Ryan, you want to tell them, talk quickly about the differences between option one and option two?
Yeah, essentially, option one is only looking at the sewer rates and everything, and option two would be looking at the water, which might not be a bad thing because the last time that was looked at was, I believe, 2012, and that was before the deficit elimination plan and everything. So it might be good to look back at it and just see how everything's going. If it, if your rates still need to jump the certain percentage every year, or, work closely with Jim on that, because we haven't, looked at those. No, I don't think anyone's looked at the rates really since 2012. I believe that's the last study that was done for the city. So, but yeah, so basically it's either one or both. We kind of need the sewer one to start making sure those numbers are right for like a possible RD sewer job in the future. So that was the main concern right away, but then looking at it, it might not be a bad idea to get both done at the same time if we're diving into the numbers anyway.
I can't imagine we would do a rate analysis and not include water at this point. So I think we should plan for option number two, and it appears that Stu agrees with that. Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
All right, number 11 is the budget amendment for storm sewer replacement at 206 Davis Street.
So this is a really nice name, resident by the name of Norm. I can't remember his last name, but one of the first things I was introduced to when I got here as city manager was the issue ongoing in Norm's backyard. And what happens is water is coming down the hill. It goes under his neighbor's garage or house. And then for some reason, he has sort of a low pitched area that it's not quite pitching correctly, and it settles, and then ice and frost heave it up. And it's a plastic corrugated pipe. And so it's frost heaved his entire backyard, his driveway, across his lawn. He's got some electricity running from the house to the garage. All of that is heaved up and available and exposed in his yard. So we've been looking at engineering solutions, trying to figure that out. And that area, because of the way the water is flowing and pitching, this recommendation is to fix that pitch. It's to get rid of that plastic corrugated and put something a little heavier, concrete, that's gonna stay stable in the ground and not shift the same way. And then it also starts establishing a better catch basin to the future of downstream for that, should we need to do something. This gentleman's been living with this since at least a year before I got here. Again, like I said, I've been working on it for the last year, trying to get through understanding the problem and finding a solution. You all have lived with the understanding what the problem is, recommending GEI go out and study it. GEI has come back and this is their budget. I recommend that we take care of this gentleman's problem. It is a city issue. It has nothing to do with the resident, but he's got a real mess. He drives over almost a 2-foot hump in his driveway just to get into his garage. So it's pretty bad back there. So I'm asking to make an amendment, and I'm asking that this would be able to come out of our water sewer fund.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go with the city manager's recommendation and approve $29,949.81 to come out of the water and sewer fund this year.
Right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Moving on to number 12, we have 2 special event applications. A is special event application and temporary liquor license for Shelley's Rainbow Bar for July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then B is special event application for Ishpeming Community Events Music in the Park beginning in June, and the Festival of Treasures to be held on July 2nd. I think we'll do these one at a time. So we'll look at Shelley's first.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we approve the special event application from Shelley's Rainbow Bar as presented.
Okay. And then for discussion, this is pretty much just kind of back to standard. This has been, they have done this in the past. Steve, I don't know if you want to comment on this at all?
Yeah, so it's same as they've done past several years. So I don't sign, I look over the liquor license, it requires my signature. And if you approve the event, I will sign the liquor license for the temporary liquor license.
Okay, so it's just back to pre-COVID, July 4th.
Yeah, they asked for part of Canada, which we block off for them. We've done that for the past several years.
Okay.
And you had previously stated that special events packets that were done for outdoor events last year could be done by me, but because the liquor license was attached, I would have approved it for everything except for the liquor license, but the liquor license still has to come before the council, so that's why it's in front of you.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then the second one is Ishpeming Community Events, Music in the Park beginning in June, and Festival of Treasures to be held on June 2nd.
So the music in the park would have been passed through my office. The Festival of Treasures is new. They combined them into a single packet, so that's why it's before you.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we approve the special event application for Ishpeming Community Events for Music in the Park and Festival of Treasures.
Supported by Stu. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It sure is nice that restrictions have been lifted on outdoor events and activities. Okay, moving on. Number 13, letter of agreement with Police Officers Association of Michigan.
Steve, you want to take that one?
So the Police Officers Association of Michigan, home, made an economic issue toward the council. This was it. And they, their contract expired in January. They've been working without the contract. They're asking for keep medical the same, 3% pay increase upon approval, which would be after this if you approve it. And then there's still some wording issues that we're cleaning up. No hang-ups, but a lot of old wording. And we will sit down with them, and upon cleaning up a lot of that wording, upon cleaning up all that wording, they will receive it, or they're asking to receive a $700 signing bonus. That's pretty much the agreement. It's for 1 year, so it would expire at the end of this year, but pretty much most of the wording would be done after that.
And so this was discussed, and they actually were very appreciative of the comments from the council per the last meeting, and we're very agreeable, no pushback whatsoever on what the council gave as far as what we were asking in negotiations. And so they're just looking for us to finish this document, and I think it's very supportable. And we have a very professional police force with all the things going on in the world today, and watching defunding and other negativity things surrounding the police. Our folks have never had a negative outlook, never turned to feeling like that pressure was here. I think that's a sign of a strong police force and a strong city support for our police force, which is great. So I recommend your approval.
Your Honor, I will make a motion that we approve the letter of agreement between the City of Ishpeming and the Police Officers Association of Michigan as presented.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Steve.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 14, declare 128 library books and audiovisual materials as surplus.
Your Honor, I will make a motion that we declare 127 books as surplus.
Oh, Jess, I don't know if, Jesse, were you gonna add something to that? If yes, you're muted.
No,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to be muted. I think it's 128 is the only thing. I don't know if that matters if it's
Yeah,
off
did
by
you say
one number.
120?
I may have.
I think you're
128.
correct, because I thought I heard him wrong, but I think,
I may
Well,
have
those-
misheard. That was the only thing. Yeah.
Those 8 items are just not going to be declared as surplus under my motion.
you'll have to figure out which 8 that is.
Tell me which ones. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
128 items. Did we have support for that? Okay, all right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all 128 are surplus. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 15, request from the cemetery board to purchase Carmel Bay exterior carpet for around the columbarium. Did I say that right?
Columbarium is.
Columbarium. Okay,
So this is a first for me, I think, as a city manager, and that I'm going to suggest maybe the cemetery board revisit options, and I would ask council not to support this. There's been work. We've increased the amount of columbariums. There's some raw dirt from that excavation that we could seed, we could sod, we can do a lot of things to get grass in there relatively easy. This is for a fake grass carpet that would lay down there that is gonna have a life cycle replacement. And is, I don't know, even if it lasts, 5 years, they don't intend to pull it up each year and roll it up and protect it during winter or anything. The intent was just to lay it down and be done. We already do all the mowing on all the upkeep in that area. It's no big deal to run a mower a little bit extra space. The space of this carpet is not significant in mowing time. But I believe that artificial carpet is not the right solution for that area, and that we should be looking at natural cover and getting that covered. I was not at that board meeting, so I asked Mr. Martinak if he could explain all of that, and there was really not a lot of justification. They just thought it would be quick and easy to manage rather than to try to seed. But even sod's not that expensive to put some sod down and have that be natural again.
yeah, I would think have patches of fake grass amongst the whole lot of other natural grass seems odd. So unless there was a better explanation, and I see that it's highlighted on the minutes here without any explanation in particular as to why that might be the solution of choice, so. Okay. So then we will take no action on that. Do we need to?
Well, their board has recommended the purchase and execution to the managers of our cemetery.
Okay.
And they're awaiting a purchase or a decision out of council. So I think council ought to give a response back to the cemetery board as to how they think that money should be or shouldn't be spent.
I think it would be better to go the route of getting some sod and making it natural to be uniform with the rest.
There's none of this material anywhere else in our cemetery, correct?
Not to my knowledge, other than when they do a burial and then it's pulled up at the end of the burial, right? This is those are much more finer, not really, this is to be a little bit longer blade, more natural looking than even that carpet is when they do the burials.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be better to recommend from council to them to look at doing this with sod and a little bit of elbow grease.
All right, so do we need a motion? We need a motion then to deny their request. Okay.
Well, we suppose means to deny it.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, number 16, proceeds from the sale of lot on northwest corner of Lake and Division.
So I'm gonna give a brief introduction, and then I'm gonna ask the city attorney to give a kind of recommendation to you all. We've already approved the sale of this lot. The issue is, as we went to do the deed paperwork, there was a hang up in the deed paperwork because the lot was once land bank cleanup lot, and there was a deed restriction. the law has changed in how it's managing those types of operations and transfers of these types of deeds. We prepared a letter to the county asking them to get the deed release straightened out so that we could in fact transfer the sale of that deed and sell the property to the Andrakis. The county attorney has a difference of opinion. We're not quite sure exactly why, other than there is an understanding, and I personally don't have an issue with it and would recommend that Land Bank spent about $30,000 to clean this area up. I guess maybe after a fire, but there was a lot of asbestos cleanup in that area. And $10,000 in proceeds is coming back. The law in the past would automatically transfer those proceeds to the Land Bank. We're able to keep the approximately 1,600 and some change that we bought the property back from Land Bank for. So $10,000 that we received from the Andrakis, less the 1,600 and change, would result in 8,000 something going to the Land Bank. The county's holding up the clean title because they want us to collect the money, transfer the money to them, and then they'll give us a clean title to transfer back to the Andrakis. We should be able to transfer a clean title, sell the property, and then when the proceeds come in, disperse the proceeds appropriately. So I'm recommending that we, in fact, give the remaining balance less what we paid for the property to Land Bank and allow the attorney and our attorney and I to work with the county to get this deed paperwork cleared. But this is where her recommendation comes in. So Caroline, please.
We're sharing here. So yeah, I think the situation is that the city has owned this property for 9 years, and we want to now resell it to the people who would like to buy it as already approved. When under the old law, when that would happen, the city would pay over any profit, if you will, over what we paid for it back to the county. And that's the proposal here, and it's my understanding it's because of the good relationship that the city has had with the county and the Land Bank over these things in the past. And because the county apparently invested quite a lot in cleaning up a lot, which is what is allowing the city to turn that lot over to someone and get it back on the tax rolls in the first place. In this situation, though, I don't think that the city can just send $8,000 to the county and then hope to get a deed, which would then allow us to transfer. The problem with the deed that we have is that there's a lot of restricted language in there. I can't explain it. It's not under the old law. It's not under any law that I was able to find. So we just need to clean it up. And I've sent them something they could sign. So my proposal is if you go with the manager's recommendation to send the profit, the Andrakis purchase price less what we've paid for the lot over to the county, make that once the deal's been concluded. In other words, the county gets us the clean deed so that we can transfer it, and then we get the money from the buyers and forward that to the county in that order.
I know that sounds really simple, but the pushback is that they want to go out of order. But we want to follow the normal sales transaction process. So
I think we should go with the recommendation of the city manager and our city attorney. I think that would be, do we need a motion for that?
Probably.
yes.
Okay, then that is my motion to go with the recommendation of the city manager and city attorney. We have a good relationship with the Land Bank. I think that's a fair way to go about it.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the next item is set the public hearing for request to purchase lot 48 southwest corner of First Street and Pearl Street. And I believe that that's the lot adjacent to the current spot of West End.
West End Trail, yes. So the owner, Deb Leaf, I think is, when Spencer moves wholly to the new site of the Merrick's Building, her intent is to convert that space into living space. And she needs some additional space for parking and some green space to, to make it a comfortable living space. And that lot next to her has been available. She's expressed interest for a long period of time. We have recently recognized that from my office and have helped her to get through this process. My recommendation is that we do in fact try to help her through this process and to get this sale executed. And this is step one. So just.
Excellent. I know she has been asking about this for a long time, and I think it'll be a good addition to the property that she already has.
Yeah, and we're putting this, back on the tax roll again, so.
Yep. So we set the public hearing for our next meeting. Caroline?
You're going to need to look at whether or not this property is surplus and whether the city has a use for it or whether it should be disposed of. And then if you find yes, set a public hearing on the sale.
Okay. So we would need to make a motion to declare that lot as surplus and then set the hearing. Okay.
If that's a motion, I'll support it.
That's a motion.
Perfect.
Oh, you support it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I supported it.
Whew. All right, it's been a long week. I would add that Deb has been maintaining that lot for a number of years, and yeah, the city hasn't been doing anything with it. It's not an asset to the city, other than to be able to sell it and put it back into taxes. All right. So all those in favor of declaring that lot as surplus, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then we could set the public hearing for that for the next meeting for July. What is the date of our next meeting? Okay. 7th. Okay. All right. Moving on, we
So,
have,
Your Honor, it's not been discussed and you don't have to discuss it at this moment, and you can have a closed session in future if you would like. Just pulling out of the center of the paragraph at the bottom of the page that the offer was 500 for that lot. I don't know, I didn't raise that to your attention, so the city council has the right to accept an offer, counter offer, or, expect something higher or lower. It's up to you. Stu's thought is that it was a little low. I don't disagree, but some consideration is that she's been maintaining that lot by herself and that it's really only a value to her. There's not going to be a lot of competition for it. It's not the same as looking at the land sale that we gave to Mr. Kinney, who has, acres of space. So I haven't done a market analysis of that lot, right, to tell you whether that's a fair offer or not, but that is something that as you work through the consideration of this property, you want to make note of that you do or don't accept that offer.
okay. Does anyone have any other thoughts on that? Or do we wish to discuss it at this time? I would tend to agree with Craig that it's really not of value to anyone else. I think it's probably too small to put any sort of construction on. And I can't imagine it being desirable to anyone else.
And I think at this point, just to back you up on that one, Your Honor, I think that you're right on that one.
Okay.
I agree.
Any other, Stu, thoughts?
Each one up in me down there. Short town. Then for years, we had a project. Each one that town. We have a lot of money invested in me.
My understanding is that the clearing of that property was paid for with a grant, and I don't know that that necessarily matters, but. Okay.
We can see if we can find data for
Yeah,
you.
maybe see if we can figure out what was spent to clear that property. All right. So then we can move on from that one. Is there anything else? Okay, then we'll move on to number 18 is discussion on Empire Street reconstruction. And it has two parts, A, UP Engineers and Architects contract amendment for Empire Street reconstruction, and then B is parking a sidewalk along Empire Street from 3rd to Oak.
So I don't recall the level of depth of explanation on this, so I'm going to detail it out a little bit. So the Mdot project has very definitive lines of where we can and cannot work. Those lines do not allow us to work from 3rd to Oak. It's about 400 feet of space. While we were analyzing the Mdot process, doing surveys and understanding that limitation of the Mdot process, we also had the concession stand that was constructed at the end of the play lot there, and found that when we turned multiple water shutoffs, they broke and needed to be replaced, and we ended up with the boil water order. Further analysis of that area and reviewing some of the data that we had from GEI and past records, Empire Street's water system is very poor, in very poor shape, and is going to be needing to be replaced. So now put Mdot project back in the scope of, you're gonna put a new road over a bad infrastructure. That's what we've been talking about not wanting to do. We discovered that somewhere in the past, not even recent past, but a while ago, that the city had purchased almost $600,000 worth of ductile iron pipe, which is what you use to put in water service. And it's laying in one of our yards of materials and parts. So we have almost $600,000 of water pipe available to us to do work on Empire and replace the majority of the Empire water line, already owned at a much cheaper price than current prices for ductile iron.
So we happened to just find $600,000 worth of pipe?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, as we were cleaning up. So in the past, we did a cleanup project to clean up some paints and some solvents. And when I went over to look at that, I started asking questions. Hey, what's all this stuff? And what's that pile of pipe? And so we discovered that that is, in fact, a valuable stack of pipe.
I'm glad we didn't decide to scrap it.
Yes, me too. And so trying to come and bring this thing full circle, we've got 400 feet of unfinished road. We have a $600,000 stash of ductile iron pipe that will clear and finish all but about, and Brian's online, he can help me figure out, about 300, I think, feet of the road of water line from 3rd all the way to, or from 3rd all the way to Oak could be all new water line under a new road next year. The cost of that, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, was between 200 and 300,000, closer to 300,000, I think. The problem is that money does not exist at the moment, but I believe there's going to be some ARPA money, yeah, it's ARPA, right? That's the right term, the Recover America plan. I believe we're going to have money coming in soon. So I had GEI, UPEA in a room and said, okay, let's resolve this. We have UPEA working on the Mdot project, but they fall short 400 feet of a road. We have GEI working on $305,000 of roadway project, and they would pick up that 400 feet of road. But do I really want two engineering firms working on one survey of a complete road and now insert water into the mix? So the two firms looked across the table at each other, looked at me, and we decided the best method to recommend to the council was to let UPEA do it all. And since they'd already done all the survey and all of the work there, GEI has provided the design that they already had for that water line and what that would take to do that. And then the remaining roadway is easy because both of them were going to do roadway stuff. So the first line item is to amend the budget to allow UPEA to pick up the additional engineering work. So about 8,900, sorry, my glasses aren't on now. $8,950 in engineering work would come off of the GEI 305 roadway work and be transferred over to the UPEA. So it's not really a finding money, it's just moving it from GEI's scope of contract to UPEA's, amending it so that UPEA does that work. GEI and UPEA agree that UPEA should be doing that work. So that's item one. Item two is then to talk about sidewalk. So I think we just stop at item one and then the budget amendment, decide whether you guys are okay with that. Again, we're hoping that ARPA dollars are going to come out to pay for that water and get that all done. I can talk to you on timing of projects. We think it's all going to work as far as that goes. And fortunately, I have to go talk to Scott Urbish, but the county already has some of $6 million of their ARPA dollars. We're confident we're going to get at least the amount that we need here. So a little conversation with Scott Urbish over at county might be able to get a conditional agreement to loan us some dollars while we wait for our ARPA dollars and get this project moving to resolve a very long standing problem of Empire Street and having all new water and the 400 patch of road this year, with the Mdot being finished next year. And then you would have a complete roadway of Empire with new infrastructure underneath all through next year.
Yeah, because I kind of can't believe when we've been looking at this project that it, for whatever reason, the original scope didn't include that last section from, was it Maine to Oak? Because that is the worst of it.
Worse.
That's the absolute worst part. And so I have had a hard time understanding why we would do all the rest of that and not do the section that's the absolute worst. So,
I would like to know how we didn't know we had $600,000 worth of pipe laying around. I think we might need to do some inventory analysis here on what we have, because that's not something I like to hear, that we just have stuff laying around.
at least we didn't lose $600,000 worth of pipe.
Yeah.
I have an opinion. That's about all that is at this point, because it's been there a while. We've had some changing of the guard, and in doing that, they've helped me to analyze where we are in some things, helped me look around, and we're picking up on things. How it was missed is not on the young crew, right? And so I can't necessarily explain how we got there, but the fact that we found it and that we're now working to resolve it. Timeline, it's a miracle, right? The timing is perfect. The pricing, it's like we bought it at half price compared to what it would cost us now to get all of that. And I mean, it's just circumstances are coming together. I'd rather not focus on what happened years ago and how we got to that point versus just, let's move on. We found it, we're gonna make best of it and we're gonna use it. It has been determined that it is useful. It's not unuseful pipe. It didn't rot, corrode, do something that made it useless to us and move forward.
It was clearly Mr. Scanlon's fault, so.
Yeah.
He's not here, blame him.
Yep. All right, so we can move forward on that then.
Do we need a motion?
Yes, to amend the contract.
Yes, so moved.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So then item B.
So, there's some area of sidewalk that I guess we're trying to just figure out. There was a 2 or 3 time submission for a new tennis court with the DNR that we didn't score high enough each time. There was a design that was laid out within that scope that included some sidewalk along the tennis courts and whatnot. Some of that design doesn't necessarily scope well with the way the 2 roads pieces would mesh together, the 400 feet plus the other Mdot. And I guess we're looking to just see if you have any specific needs, concerns, or issues on what that sidewalk looks like, but we think the sidewalk should continue from where it stops in the Mdot project, and which is required to do sidewalk as part of Mdot, and continue the sidewalk from Main to Oak. And it may or may not jive with the DNR proposed drawing that was once done. Do you need to see that new drawing if it conflicts, or do you want me to just work with the UPEA to make the best sidewalk that fits in that area? And should we get to tennis courts in the future, we'll work around the new sidewalk. But we gotta, I don't think it's safe to not have sidewalk there. Right now, it's just sort of a big open space with no sidewalk. People park RVs and other stuff there, and we need a sidewalk there.
How do we?
So would you be proposing to pull out concrete and then lay down a sidewalk? Which would be, because it is all concrete right now. It's just a big slab. So would this be a more defined sidewalk?
So the roadway would be a crush and shape. I think Brian checked me. I don't think Hattie was able to dial in tonight. Brian can help me with some language, but I think the word is crush and shape, which is when you make a new road, and it does extend the boundary just a little bit to clear that area that you're talking about where there's concrete. But we need a curb that carries water. We need a sidewalk, and the engineers are concerned that there's this past idea of what that area looked like with the DNR grant versus what we need to engineer for today, which is funded. Do we go with that other design and tie in the road to that design, or do we go with the road and then redesign that area later? And those discussions and dialogues just answer the question about whether you're talking about all of that concrete or not all of that
Because
concrete.
it's not really curbed in there, is it?
There's no curbing,
It's just
there's no
flat.
curbing, there's no sidewalk, and people just kind of use it as an RV storage towards the end of the year.
Or
and
trailer storage.
Trailer storage.
As we look at-
But I mean, the reality is we need a curb, we need a sidewalk, and the engineers would like to engineer a road and not worry about a tennis court.
Right,
And then if the tennis court comes back, we'll engineer around the road.
yeah, okay.
But at the time, the engineering design for the tennis court was around the circumstances if it was gonna be the first thing funded. So do I design around the tennis court design, or do I design for the road and worry about the tennis court later is really the question we're trying to discover from you.
I think we should probably go with the road design, and that's something that's funded. That's something that we are going to be doing this year. And I hope that in the future we can come up with, or we can get the grant funding to do the tennis courts, but I think right now we need to go with what's for sure happening.
I would agree. We need a motion to direct you for
No,
that,
I just
or-
need direction for that. That's-
Okay.
So,
All right, engineer for the road.
okay.
Okay. That moves us along to number 19, permission to apply for a 20% match reforestation grant for the campground on Malton Road.
Yeah, there's this limited opportunity grant. It's not a very big grant. I wouldn't expect that we're looking for very big dollars. The forester hasn't come back and said, hey, we think this is how much, right? But there's an opportunity before July to apply. It's a reforestation grant associated within the Lake Superior watershed, so that we do fall within the Lake Superior watershed, so we're eligible to apply. And we would say that pests and erosion and other things have contributed to the dying or falling over of that jack pine stand, which is being clear cut as part of the campground. But we may be able to augment our dollars to put we want to put trees there. We want it to be a rustic campground. We want to do some replanting. We may be able to augment some of that replanting with a grant if we were able to, put some money towards it. We have 30% of our matching funds for the campground that are already sort of designated towards that. I don't know the rule yet. I have to call the state to find out if I can, if I'm already going to apply some of those funds to replanting, can I also then tie it to this grant, or do I have to say, can the city give me $5,000 more, and I ask for as a 20% match and then get some more dollars? I don't know the answer to that question, honestly, but I think that it's important that we at least seek an opportunity to stretch our dollars further at every opportunity. This seems like a low-hanging fruit kind of opportunity. I'm not sure that a lot of people go after this grant because, one, not everybody's in the Lake Superior watershed. Two, not everybody's trying to reforest anything around here. So we might stand a good opportunity. But if I can't take the $30,000 that we have within our grant already matched, the real question is, would you be willing to do a budget amendment, and to how much, in order to offer a 20% match so that I can apply for the grant? So do you want me to apply? And then how much would we offer as a 20% match if we did it? And I would try to do the 30,000 first. Like, can I double dip our contribution or not?
Okay. Well, I think it sounds reasonable to apply for the grant. What does that sort of thing cost? I don't know what, I don't know what a reasonable amount of money to expect to get or need to get would be.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the challenge. I think the cost is dependent on size of trees, right? You can get saplings very cheap in quantities of thousands, or you can get 3-inch trees that are in, hundreds to thousands of dollars each. So I think if you think about it from a perspective of a 20% match, and you say, we've got I think 100 sites, even if each site needed one tree and you wanted to put one 3-inch tree on there, and you're talking about, $200-300 tree times 100, you're already at $3,000 pretty quickly, right? But if you also wanted to put some saplings in, or you wanted to put some brush control, so that you get some screening plus trees, so when you're in a rustic campground, you don't feel like the person in the site next to you is right on top of you. I really don't know how to gauge that myself either, because I'm not sure what the prices of trees are in this area for this kind of stuff. I would be using Lake Superior Watershed Partnership. That's one of the things they do to figure out. And our forester, Matt Watkey's from the Conservation District, to help me figure that out. I guess I just need an upper limit of what you're willing to tolerate, and then we kind of figure out what's best off of that. And not necessarily shoot for the upper limit, but figure out what's right within that limit.
So you're the example you just gave was $3,000, so a 20% match would be $600. So,
I was wondering, are you looking for like $10,000, or are we looking for?
I was gonna say maybe just like 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, any little bit helps, right? I don't know. I'm not used to planting trees.
But
as a
there's gonna
deal.
be more than just the cost for the saplings or the trees.
There's
gonna be
labor to do it. The
planting.
watershed partnership would help us with labor and that's part of what they do is they help us with these grants and they bring the labor force. And they would peel off some of that administrative costs for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think $10,000 as a total investment is unreasonable, which puts, 20%.
But
of
it states
10.
that there's a range of 50,000 to 300,000.
I think that was.
Funding, or, it's on the,
Yeah, shit. Well, sorry.
so it
Good
says,
catch.
yeah,
No, you're right. That's a good cost.
this is, yeah,
Good catch.
right in front of a 20% non-federal cost share of the total program costs. So
that would be a $10,000 investment to get
50,000.
to get $50,000.
That's kind of where I was going with the $10,000. I think that would still be an appropriate use of funds,
And then
but
the other question I would have is does that then count toward our match to the state? So let's say the 10,000 becomes separate, so we've got our $30,000 match to the state already. Then we spend 10,000 to match this other grant, and we get 50,000. Does that now put us at 40,000 with our match for the state, or does it put us at 80,000 for the match for the state?
No, it puts you at 40,000. The one is done, $30,000. The question is, can we apply any of that to this? Because we were gonna invest in some planting anyway. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
So could 30 actually become 40 without any extra cost out of our pocket? Maybe. The worst case is that it would be an extra 10 out of pocket, but you get an extra $50,000 total investment into that campground, which is all reforestation. So really taking some of the concerns that our partners have, Ramba, Iron Ore Heritage Trail, and saying, wow, you just stripped all this land and it's gonna take us years to grow. You now have just put $50,000 immediately back into growing it. The question is, what do you get for that? I don't know, you get saplings, you get bigger trees. I mean, obviously we wanna have a couple of nice trees when you start, but I don't know what you got for that. But it takes 10,000, makes it 50,000, right? So I mean, it's, what do we wanna think about? My goal is to take that 30,000 and turn it into 40,000. And I think we can even in this do the same thing we did with the other state grant and use in-kind services. So we can use Matt Waukke's hours. He's already gave me a letter saying we can use his hours as in-kind service match.
Okay.
So we could reduce our 10,000 and offer in-kind service, or we could do 10,000 plus in-kind service to make our grant more appealing to the state.
And where would we pull that 10,000 from? Worst case scenario, thinking the whole chunk comes.
Yeah, Jim, I need your help on that one. Where could we find $10,000 this year?
could we take it from the public improvement?
Yeah, it would either have to come from public improvement or general fund. None of the other funds would qualify.
Okay.
Again, the risk is that you commit to the idea of it, and the worst case scenario is that we get a grant and it you actually have to come up with the $10,000. The best case scenario to budget is you don't get the grant and you don't spend the $10,000, but we still then have to do replanting and other things with the grant that we already have.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tight budget, so.
Generally, I like the idea. I do worry that we make a lot of decisions that pay for things that aren't budgeted, and I do wonder how much we have overdrawn our budget by so far this year. I don't know. Is there any way to look at that, to get a number of like what we've committed to that wasn't committed in the budget, just that overall tally? I don't know.
And we will have one more council meeting prior to that deadline. Granted, it's the next day, but that might be more appropriate to put on our July council meeting agenda if we can kind of get an analysis of what we've spent in excess of what we budgeted.
Okay.
Jim and I will work to try to get you some analysis there.
Okay. And I'm not.
No, I mean,
I'm not
that's
opposed.
what
I'm not
you should be asking
I'm
me
not
for.
opposed to this on principle at all.
Right.
Me either.
But we have, we do this a lot, and I know that we've had a lot of discussion about the general fund in the past and what the number is at, and I think that our general fund has been in good shape, and there was some training thing that I did earlier this year, and they talked about where a general fund should be, and Stu had commented to it before and said that we actually are in pretty good shape as far as our general fund goes, and whatever it was that I attended did confirm that. So I'm not overly concerned about pulling from the general fund, because we do have it was decent. But if we get in the habit of doing that too often, we might find ourselves lower than we had wanted to be. So if we have the time that we can delay this decision to, or maybe we make this decision and then we do it so that this one goes through, but the next one we'll consider more critically. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. My intent, I mean, this is a project that we're already committed to and invested into, and I do agree that reforesting that area is going to be a pretty high priority. So maybe we would approve this one, but then get a report out for next meeting, so we have an idea where that's at.
I can't show you all the details you're asking right now, but I can bring your attention to the fact that rebonding just saved us a lot of money each year. And we haven't even talked about the MERS bonding yet. That's going to save us millions. So we are not going in a wrong direction. And I don't disagree with the statements. I agree wholeheartedly. I don't like coming in and saying, hey, I never forecasted this grant, but here it is, right? The opportunity's there, and we may have to figure out how to strategize for these mid-year opportunities, or start figuring out like what comes open when, and figure out if we're gonna have a pool of funds available for these opportunities. And I haven't been able to gauge that yet. I mean, they're just random. And sometimes they come out in one, sometimes they come out in two. CARES Act is throwing a whole mix of stuff into it. The ARPA dollars are gonna throw a whole lot of strange things into our mix, and we're gonna try to make sense of it for you. And it's not unfair to ask me to do that, and Jim and I will try to figure something out for you.
I think that generally, you know, my opinion is we need to go for as many grants as we can, because it's making our dollars go further. So generally, I would say, I mean, $10,000 in the grand scheme of things going towards a project that we're already doing to mitigate some of the costs that we're going to incur anyway. So.
And I do agree that we should get as many grants as possible, for sure, but the only thing that makes me a little bit uncomfortable with it is I feel like this is just yet another project or something that we allocated funds to, and now this is an additional $10,000 in addition to what we already said that we were going to spend on it. And it seems like this is something we do often.
I'm in agreement with you.
it always turns into more, you know? I'm not entirely against it, but I definitely think that we gotta
So
think about it a little more.
I appreciate that. I do. What I want to say that's different about it, just to help, if it helps. When I did this project, call it the EOC, right? The lighting was an addition, the carpet was an addition. I didn't know the condition of what the floor was underneath it. The campground doesn't need to be supported by this. It's not a must-have this grant in order to do the campground. It's an augmentation that came available. And so, yeah, it's more, but it's not like, hey, you have to do the carpet because you ripped up the floor because you didn't know you were gonna have to rip up the floor. You didn't realize that the wall was
Right,
gonna be in
that's
a
my point.
condition.
That's why I'm saying we.
That's the difference, though, is I didn't have a choice on flooring. I have a choice here. You can say no, and it won't stop the campground. It's not a must fund.
So this does say that the deadline is the day after our next meeting, so perhaps we could have an assessment at the next meeting and then make a decision.
Yeah, I'll just move forward with getting the application ready and try to get you some mathematical data on where we're at and then push it the next morning if you want to go forward.
I'll make a motion that we table this until the July meeting.
Support.
Vote on table.
I don't know if we vote on a table. I don't think you do if you have
Do we
two.
need a vote on the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, all those in favor of tabling, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that moves us into old business. Stu's shaking his head, he has no old business. Diz, do you have any old business?
Nothing.
Jason, old business? Okay, I have some old business. First old business, I suppose these are more informational, I suppose. Not the first one anyway. So I've been working with the Planning Commission on the marijuana ordinance. Caroline has been helping. And that has, as of our meeting on Monday, we have largely agreed to, not largely, we have agreed to the parameters of the ordinance. We have a draft ordinance that just needs to be, I suppose, final edited we kept retail establishments at 2 in the city and said no to everything else, in part because that made moving forward with the retail establishments sort of easier, faster. We didn't have to focus on the other applications and zoning and where and all these other things. We worked with the assistance of Bryce Sturmer from Velodrome, who previously attended a meeting and expressed interest in a marijuana establishment within the city, and he is pretty well versed on the topic at the moment, and he provided a lot of valuable insight and helped us arrive at the conclusion of eliminating the other options. They can always be added at a later date, but we don't have anyone at the moment who's looking to open anything else other than a provisioning center retail. So that will work its way through the rest of the process. The other main point that was of large contention and lots of discussion within the group was the state law says that these establishments must be 1,000 feet from any school. If we were to adhere to that, we would not be able to have any retail in the central business district, which is the main downtown area. I know our intent was to be able to allow businesses in that area, and the state law does allow us to change that distance. I believe you can't extend it further, but you can reduce it, and you can reduce it to 0 if you so choose. We discussed removing it completely as 0, and we also discussed lots of different variations of foot distances, buffer zones from the school. And what we arrived at on Monday was basically a 1 block radius. So the immediate block around those school locations, so the middle school, high school, and then the school at St. Joseph's. And then so it draws a box around those, and then Al was going to identify the parcels that border that, and those would not be available for that type of business. We spent a lot of time deliberating on the optics of that, the actual protection of kids and schools, and the makeup of our downtown, of the existing businesses in our downtown, with bars and other businesses that maybe are, I don't know. So those were the sticking points, and so I'm not necessarily seeking immediate feedback on that, since it's going to be working its way through that and it will come to us, but that is the decision that we came to on Monday as far as that ordinance will go. So just as a heads up, and that will require a public hearing with the Planning Commission, correct?
There's a public hearing on the zoning changes at the
yes.
Planning Commission level. And then the whole thing would be enacted by the council as an ordinance or ordinance amendments, which involves public hearing.
Yeah, okay. So I know I have been a little confused on that process, so thank you for the clarification. So that's kind of where it's at right now. I think the timeline, we had initially asked for it to be handed off from the Planning Commission to council by June or in June, and that isn't quite ready to happen, but it is working along, and I can assure you that I push to move it along because I would like to see that moved along. So that's my update on that sort of old business. Along with that, I did also have an update from the Blight Committee. Jason and I met with Evan Bonsall, who's working with the county, and he's been working with the Blight Committee to draft a property maintenance ordinance that would address a lot of blight issues. The Blight Committee hasn't met since November, I think.
Yeah.
Hasn't met in a while.
January, it's been a while.
And so Evan is very close to having that ready, but it needs to work with the Blight Committee a couple more. I think he said that he'd really like to meet 2 more times because his fellowship with the county and his formal working with the city will end at the end of July. And so we really need to meet 2 more times, he said, to work out a lot of the details. There are a number of other things in there, like creating ordinances or ordinance and potential violations for landowners, and then how will we assist them in paying for some of those things, because they would be changes and would require people to invest money into their property. So there's a lot that kind of goes along with it, but we do need to get that moving. And then in the spirit of committees with specific tasks, my request or maybe recommendation would be to prod the Blight Committee to meet the 2 more times before the end of July, and then allow them or us to reassess the need for that committee immediately. And then perhaps it could be disbanded for the time being until there is a specific, another specific task for them. I don't know how others feel about that.
Yeah. So, and what was expressed to Evan too is that packet was sent to our attorney, and she's going through the review as well to make sure that it is executable from the side of law, rather than, so he's been blending like things he found online, other cities, blending it with what we have, like taking the best of everything, blended together. And as the Blight Committee was meeting, it was a spinning tire. And that unless we went through certain areas line by line by line, there was really not a lot of energy going on with that. It was more of Evan trying to say what he did in the last update. Reality is, we're at the point where the attorney needs to help us understand whether or not there's any issues or concerns related to what he's got on file. And we expect to have that back soon so that we can have that meeting. And, but I didn't know that we were trying for 2. He has not expressed a need for 2 to the Blight Committee or myself. I was planning for 1.
I would like to see 2, just based on his packet that he gave us. I think there's a lot to go over and a lot to digest as a committee also. So I would like to see 2. I am on that committee, so I am volunteering myself for 2, but yes, I would like to see 2 meetings.
Who's the chair of that committee?
That would be me.
Okay. All right, because I think, I mean, it would be, we talked a lot about that. I think there are some, yeah, I'd like to see that move forward.
As would I.
Okay. That's the end of my old business. Craig, do you have any old business?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else have any old business? Okay, then we'll move on to new business. Jason, do you have any new business? Okay. Probably. I can't read your mind, so I don't know what that means. Stu, do you have any new business? Okay. Diz? Okay, then my new business would be to discuss the possibility of just scheduling 2 regular council meetings per month. When we were speaking with Evan, we talked about, because he is also on the Marquette City Commission, we talked about the frequency and duration of council meetings and the addition of special meetings. And I don't know that we've gone a month in the last 18 months that hasn't had at least 1 additional special meeting. And as of late, our regular council meetings go on very long. So the request or for discussion would be to have 2 regular scheduled council meetings that ideally would eliminate the need for scheduling of special meetings. We could all just go ahead and plan for them, and then maybe they'd be shorter than leaving at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know how other people might feel about that. Okay. I mean, since we always schedule them anyway, I'd rather just know that that's what's coming. And then if for some reason we didn't have anything to talk about, which I can't imagine happening, but if it did, maybe we could cancel it.
Yeah, I think, at least for me, it would be nice to just say the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of every month are council meetings, or however we word it. It would just be much easier to plan than pop up special council meetings.
Just according to council, it's the first Wednesday, not the first Monday.
Okay. So then could we say, would we, if we were going to word it for would we say the first Wednesday, or the Wednesday after the first Monday of the month, and then the second Wednesday after that?
You have 2 per month, with the first Wednesday, 2 weeks later.
Okay,
That is a good way to word it.
with the second
Stu.
meeting being 2 weeks later. Okay, same time, 7 o'clock?
Just from a staff perspective, and obviously you can do what you like, but 6 o'clock would be a lot better. Most of us have to stick around after 4 or 5 o'clock for a couple hours.
You already had the staff in the first one,
Okay,
unless it's special needs.
that would work.
That's good too, but 6 o'clock would be better. But
I'm fine with 6 o'clock.
I think this second meeting per month technically would be a special meeting. I think the charter says you're gonna have a regular meeting the first Wednesday after the first Monday.
Okay,
So this would be a regularly scheduled.
Special meeting.
Okay,
And you could have tossed around various rules for how you're gonna work it, but you could have a different start time, you could have all those things.
okay.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
I think I would defer to Councilmember Skug because he is the one who came up with the wording or the dates. But I'll support it.
I'll make the motion. Just 2 weeks after, right, a regularly special meeting.
Starting at 6 o'clock.
No, we should start either at 6 for both or 7 for both.
Can we change the first council meeting? Or is that in the charter that it's at 7 o'clock?
I don't think the time is.
I don't
in the
have
charter. I think the
my
date
copy
is in
of the charter with me.
So I just need to make sure that, I would need to make sure that I post it again, changing the time. I have to look, I don't think it says the time.
I don't think it does either.
I don't think it does.
I don't think it says what time either.
Because Chief Snort brings up a very good point that for staff purposes, it would just be nicer to go that
And
route.
then we could go longer and it wouldn't be so late.
Shame on you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry,
We
what was that,
can go
Kathy?
It
longer.
just says at such times that the council shall prescribe.
Okay,
So 6 o'clock for both.
okay. So we're changing does that need to be a separate motion to change the time of this meeting? Okay, with both meetings occurring at 6 o'clock?
Starting in July, I would say.
Ooh, do we have to start with 2 regular? We're probably gonna have another one anyway. I won't be here for the second one.
Or starting in August, maybe,
Let's
seeing
say-
July is
let's say
already.
let's say starting in August. I will support your motion with the, if you'll change it to say starting in August. I probably won't be here for the second one in August either.
I won't be in October, but.
Okay, are we
if
good
Zoom's
on that
available,
then?
I still can.
All right, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Do we have a voice coming from Mississippi?
we have a what?
A voice coming from Mississippi on this one?
I think in the grand scheme of things, although we did just schedule a standing special meeting every month,
I do too.
I think, and moving it to 6 o'clock, I think a lot of that will make it easier from a scheduling standpoint. You don't look as enthusiastic. I'm sorry.
So there's a impact to staff, right? And the staff already gives and gives and gives. And I was at a meeting on Monday until 9 o'clock. I'm at another meeting today till 9 o'clock. And I'm regularly out at meetings, as are you, right? But we're not getting paid for those. We're salary employees, most of us. Some of us get some comp time that they can't take because there are not enough days in the year to take those comp time days, right? So I've been of the opinion, get as much done in one meeting and try not to schedule multiple meetings for the sake of the staff. My mind is, okay, let's figure out my cutoff. So I cut the meeting in half. Do less work for each meeting, cut the meeting agenda down so that we do get through them quicker so that my staff get some of their time back, but they're still losing time out. You know, a lot of us run to camps in the evening, even sometimes on a weekend. And every time you lose an evening with family, you're losing a work-life balance. I'd rather do one long meeting and get it over with than to have multiple meetings for my staff. I'd rather be doing this in the middle of the day or the end of the day. I get that, you all are volunteers and coming in when you can do after work. We understand that, so we accommodate. 6 o'clock is definitely a move in the right direction for us. 5:30 is a move in the right direction for us.
I don't
You're
think,
taking away personal time from staff every time you make these decisions, and many of our staff are working multiple meetings, not just the city council meeting. So every time, like, you split all the committee meetings. We don't get to split them. So I'm at many of them, and so are my staff. So these decisions are just multiplying our time away. So that's the impression you're getting engaging from my facial expression.
I think, if I think though, with the fact that we're turning this into a special council meeting, only actionable items from the staff would be, recommended, I guess. I thought about that too, but I also thought about the fact that we have scheduled sometimes 3 meetings in a month, and this would get us back to something that's set somewhat in stone.
This is one question. We have our regular council agenda that we do. So we have a standing special council meeting, and it's a regularly scheduled special meeting. Is it gonna be similar to this agenda? Like, will we have the minutes? Just so I know how I'm preparing that type of agenda.
It's up to you.
But I mean, like, are there standard, are we gonna have like the same public comment, 5 minutes, special, normally on a special meeting agenda, it's pretty short, so I guess I would just need to know how to prepare that. That agenda, and we can talk about that, but
Yeah, I would think that it would not include any of the standard agenda items. It would be basically, as we do any other special meeting, the benefit would be that it's at a pre-scheduled time, so we're not looking at everyone's schedules and trying to figure out where it fits best. We just know that the 2 weeks after the regularly scheduled is where we would put those extra items. And maybe we can have I don't know, maybe we've got a protocol for canceling it if it doesn't seem like it's going to be necessary.
And I think we would still have to put public comment on there.
Yeah, we still probably have to have public.
Special meetings, do we have agenda comment though?
Well, special meetings is agenda comment, that a special council meeting, according to the council rules, the special meeting they can only, well, I don't even know if that's council rules, I think that's.
They can do public comment, but I don't think there's 2 of them.
But it's only
Okay.
on what's on the agenda.
Okay.
At a special meeting.
I think it would still be good to allow just general public comment.
You're required to have general public comment.
At a special, not,
Well, but not at a,
Yeah, at a public meeting. But what you have now is you have one at the beginning, then you have agenda, then you have one at the end.
We added that one at the end
Yeah.
recently.
So the special meeting has one, right? Just the special,
but it's agenda comment.
I thought it was just agenda, and I think
Just
we,
What's on
agenda
the
comment.
I think we should probably, I would feel better opening it up to also adding in public comment, but that's,
I think I guess I could go either way.
even a 3-minute public comment would be.
So I like the idea of moving them all to 6 o'clock, because that does fit it in a little bit better. What if we agree we'll try this for a couple of months, and maybe if we're like, gosh, that was terrible, then we can nix that special meeting, and then keep this meeting at 6 o'clock.
May I just ask a couple considerations?
Mhm.
Monthly financial statement report stays on the primary monthly, and we don't expect an extra
Nope.
financial report of any kind
Nope.
unless you direct, like we're asking on the
Mhm.
data analysis for
And
grant
I'm also
application.
understanding that
So-
if we were to have the second one this month, that's a pretty short turnaround time, and that might not be a feasible request for that short amount of time.
Yeah. Special event applications, we spend a lot of time on those, but they come in randomly. We've been holding them to the first month or the first meeting unless there's like, hey, it came in today and they're trying to do something tomorrow. We've been trying to accommodate businesses, but do we want to say, look, you know what, you get it in by the first meeting of the month or it doesn't get in until next month?
No, I don't
I mean,
necessarily, I think that's one of the reasons we've had special council meetings is because we've got special events that have been popping up. So I think it could go on to either meeting. I don't think it
We haven't been
matters.
doing special meetings for the special events, though, I don't think.
Didn't we have a couple, one or two?
Generally they get tossed in if we're doing something and we can get it out of the door, just so it's not sitting on a desk. But we haven't, generally we've been making financial decisions like purchasing equipment and lease timelines or something else that's been kind of the special agendas. So, I mean, I would like to just kind of like stabilize what Kathy's saying, is stabilize the agenda so that we know certain things are only on this agenda and certain things, you know, categories at least of items fall onto both agendas. You know, I don't know that we need to put old business and new business on both agendas. You know, so.
Yeah, I think so. We just have it pre-scheduled.
That's some savings to the staff, right? So just trying to figure out, like Jim would probably walk out the door tonight if you told me to do a separate monthly mathematical
No, I
report
don't-
twice a
no,
month, you know what I'm saying?
can't-
So I'm just,
I can't
I
see
want to,
why we
I want to
would
make
need
sure we
that.
understand like some of those limitations up front so that we're building correctly. So how about, I'll capture what I think that we've talked about and make two proposed agendas, one for the first, one for the second. Kind of shell it out. I'll share it with you. We'll talk about it at the July meeting and say, yeah, this is good, or change these things. Because I can't solicit the feedback during email, but I can send it out so you can consider it and kind of hash it out so that we can talk about it and be more effective. At least we have a shell to talk about, if that makes sense. And we'll
I
make
think
some
that sounds great.
recommendations. We'll make recommendations that at least minimize some of the staffing time that's.
And I don't think
I
any
don't
of
think
us.
you're doing, but you're trying to cut the amount we're doing in a single evening where it's possible, but not increase staff time. And that's, I get it. So
And I
that's what I'm
think
trying to manage too.
This does, I think there's another way to look at this too, and I think that's, if we have two regularly scheduled meetings and we try to not have a third, we're actually just aligning it so everyone can plan their lives outside of being.
Yeah, but I only lose
in the city.
one meeting to council a month versus two, right? So if I want to make a dinner arrangement with somebody and go out to dinner, I've only got to worry about one day a month versus 2 nights a month now. So it's just, I can plan, right? Planning's a tool. It's just how much of the staff is lost personal time.
And that's not lost on me at all, but I think it's, in the long run, if this does become a regular thing, I think it's gonna be easier on everyone in the long run to be able to plan for these things.
And that was the thought behind it. I mean, as Jason said, the staff time is not lost on me either. I'm at a regular job all day and then I come, and do this. It's not that different. Is the same. Stu, it just sits around all day, so.
Drinks a lot of coffee and
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, but.
So Caroline,
And-
yes.
Well, and the attorney specifically now.
Yeah.
She's under contract 1 meeting a month. So if there's a need for an attorney, we're picking her up at a cost. Do we want to keep the attorney issues to the same once a month?
Up to you.
If there's something that is driving a necessity, I will have her here because we need her here. But otherwise, my intent would be that she would be at the first meeting of the month.
Yes.
And anything that includes attorney review or comment would be in that first meeting of the month. If it necessitates,
Yes.
obviously, but I don't want to have her scheduling for 2 meetings a month now when we have contracted her for 1 meeting a month.
I
As
think
long
that
as you're
sounds
okay with
reasonable.
that, so.
I was just gonna say that I was on a board one time that had this issue, and what we did is we set a time for a special meeting if it was needed,
Mhm.
so that it functioned just like any other special meeting that you call, but it was way easier to schedule because people would keep a time and they would say, coincidentally, it was actually Wednesday late afternoons. But you could do that if you wanted to just say, if we're gonna have a special meeting, here's what we're gonna target. But a special meeting is that you don't have to hold it. You can cancel it if you don't need it.
Okay, so maybe it's not scheduling that special meeting, but saying that if we require a special meeting this month, that is the ideal date and
So
time.
everyone holds the time if they
Yeah.
possibly can.
Yeah,
I throw that out because you could do that too. You can do anything you want. You also had some rules that you wanted to mostly do away with, but I think that would be the place to look at some of these parameters for special meetings if you want to. We could bring those back. You could look at what you've already got for special meetings and have a discussion about any rule changes you'd be looking for.
okay. So we'll look at, so should we change that then and say that, were we preemptive then in approving a second meeting, or should we just?
Keep it how it is, and then the event that there's not anything, we'll just cancel it.
I agree
Okay,
with this.
what would be our deadline for canceling it then? Because I wouldn't want to be waiting until Tuesday night and say, oh, we're not having a,
Up to you.
okay.
You're the big.
The Friday before,
The-
Monday at the very latest.
Or the normal meeting packets also will be Fridays.
So if there's no
That's where I
packet.
was going with the thought process.
Mhm. So when is you would have items for an agenda by Thursday and then provide the packet on Friday?
On our normal meeting days, I get the packets on Friday for the meeting deadline for someone to contact something on the agenda. Would be the Monday before that.
Okay. So what if we made that our deadline? Because then that would be in the case of tonight.
Friday by noon.
So it would be, so if we were looking at June as our example, we're the 9th here today, that would make our second meeting the 23rd. So you'd be looking at if there were no items by the 14th.
Other than, I mean, sometimes there's like a special thing that comes up.
That comes up
You
that,
know,
yeah,
For a special, you know what I mean?
That's what I was-
We might have something that comes up on Thursday and I call and see if everybody's. As long as we have 18-hour notice.
Yeah.
let's Shoot for on a normal.
Yeah, I guess what Kathy's saying is an emergency item, for one reason or another, call it a deadline, call it something that came up that we didn't see, might still be another special meeting because we couldn't forecast it. The things that we can predict will follow this prediction rule. And I will try to get to you, Ms. Mayor, mine and Kathy's estimate of what might or might not constitute an agenda for the meeting Thursday, Friday before.
Okay.
So you can have a gauge to say, you know what, that's just not enough to call a meeting.
yeah,
And you can make that call
okay,
based on, like, if something came in on Monday following that, oh, well, we
Yeah.
made the call, right?
Yeah.
But I get that you want to be able to make a judgment call. I want you to be able to gauge that.
Yeah.
And all of our stuff doesn't come in like the day before, and all of
Right.
our stuff tends to trickle in, and we put it in a folder and we mark it what it is, and then there may be 5 or 6 items that we could knock off and get out of our folder and have a meeting for.
okay. So let's look at, so if we said Friday, we could make that call, that would be in the case of, if we were looking at June as an example, that would be the 18th. If something came in on Monday that was then urgent, we could say, you know, oh, we've got to
Wow.
do it, yeah,
Let's.
Call the
Okay.
question.
okay. I don't think there is a question. I think we just look
Okay.
at what so we put together some samples and we said we weren't gonna start it till August anyway, so that gives us some time to think about it and we could always cancel it if we decided. Okay, all right. That was my new business.
How about this?
My new business. That's my new business.
Oh,
All right. Craig, did you have any new business?
I do. I have
Okay.
2 items. So these are the kind of things that came in late and weren't able to make the agenda, but are supportive of a business, right? And so the first one is a special event application for Brody's. And so similarly to the Rainbow, this isn't an unusual event, it's an annual event. Brody's is under new management, but this is his second annual request of the same event. But because there's a liquor license portion to it, it comes to you for decision. I support the packet. It's, similarly to last year, but it's here because of the liquor license issue.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we approve special event application for Brogies.
And Steve?
I think in their application, there was 2 requests. One is to just block off parking spots in front of their place. The other one is to block off the street completely. In years past, the street completely has worked because other businesses have taken advantage of that too. On a safety reason, we did deny one at a different business kind of around the corner that was looking for outdoor space and just wanted to be in the parking spaces. I have a little bit of an issue of just blocking off parking space and putting a fence around it and still having the road open. I think safety-wise, that's not good. I would rather see us actually blocking off that block for traffic, which has been done in the past on the 4th of July. I think that's a safer way to go than just put a fence around a parking space and you still have cars going up and down the street. So that's up to you, but I think they did indicate that they would be open to either one. But that was my only concern with the event.
I would agree with Chief Snowart on this. I really would.
So do we amend the motion or is that just a discussion that you have with them on?
He's got it handwritten in here.
Okay.
So you can approve the packet. He's got or like he's
Okay.
got an or in there. So you can choose one and then just make that your motion.
I'll amend my motion to include blocking the street off for the 4th of July.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Just to block Cleveland to.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And you have a
And-
second item?
Second item is for consideration, no decision tonight.
Call
Take
the
it with you and,
Oh,
and
I didn't call the question, did I? Nope.
probably not, no.
Sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Continue.
We got to make sure we're doing right. The second one is, I don't look for a decision tonight. I want to give you some analysis because it keeps coming up. Recycling keeps coming up, right? So glass is the newest question related to recycling. And somebody has asked, and I answered, this is a copy of the email, giving him some basic analysis and suggesting that if he had further comment, maybe he should come to the council meeting and talk about it as part of a public comment. But talking to our North Country Disposal, they can provide a container. They have an 8 and a 12-yard container. They recommend a 12-yard container. They have the ability to lock the container, so at night you could put a locking bar on it. And then they recommend putting it under surveillance based on other areas that they've been having issues with. They're not seeing a lot of value in the glass, primarily because most manufacturers of food are changing to plastic containers, and there's not a lot of glass containers out there. And then there's like wine bottles people have that are, not recyclable, not deposit returnable. So there's not been a lot of it. You can still go to the landfill and they will accept it as recycling. I don't know that anybody's monitoring the next towns over that have a glass recycling. The recommendation is that we would put it over by our recycling yard, have it inside the recycling yard. It's open during the day for brush and other stuff. You could have it inside the yard under surveillance. But the cost is about $300 a month to have that container rolled off. Is it gonna be full every month? I don't know. I doubt it. So you might minimize that cost by the number of times it has to be picked up. It's just the pickup and tipping fee that is charged at that $300. But it's potentially up to $3,600, which is not forecasted at any cost. It's not in any of our fee schedules. Where do you get the money? Where do you transfer the costs in fees or whatnot? So that was just some analysis I gave in response to this resident that asked about whether or not we were considering glass. And every time a resident asks me, we have a dialogue. If they call me rather than email, and we talk about these things, it's like, oh, I don't want any more costs. I can't afford, I'll just drive it down to the yard myself. So similarly, it happened when you talked about the cost of those new blue containers. And what I don't think some of our neighboring communities recognize is that those new blue containers are actually causing delays and backups and an increased time for the collection to take place. And so those contracts may be under review and scrutiny for increased costs. And so we know what our cost is now. Anything we do is going to have an increased cost, increased time. You can't put a recycling pickup anywhere. We're already doing 5 days a week in our town, and anything you add to our collection would be moving it earlier in the morning because they have to be tipped by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they got to get there by 2:30 to tip by 3. So we're picking up starting at 6 o'clock in the morning now. You put anything else on, you're starting to move. So I just wanted to show you some of that analysis. I don't need a decision because I don't think there's a decision to make, but it's important for you to see. I am analyzing the numbers and trying to give you reasonable, but it's not a lot of email, not a lot of calls. It's just kind of a ping once in a while.
Yeah, well, glass is something that's been a big topic in Marquette County, and I appreciate the investigation into that. As someone who recycles pretty regularly, the thought of having recycling is great, but I'm not even, I feel really guilty saying this, but I probably wouldn't drive my glass over there. Like a lazy recycler, I guess, but like I can't see myself doing that. And I think that cost is obviously something we need to consider. I like the idea of the blue containers. I'm also happy to sit and wait and see what the other surrounding communities think of their blue containers after a year or so. So thank you for looking into that.
That's the end of my new business.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have new business? Okay, then we can go, we do have another public comment session. This is limited to 3 minutes per person. Jim, if there's anyone on who would like to provide public comment, go ahead and use the raise your hand feature and you will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone on who wants to provide public comment?
We do have 2 attendees, Your Honor. I do not see a hand going up.
Okay. Again, if you want to provide public comment, you'll have 3 minutes. Use the raise your hand feature.
And I still do not see a hand.
Okay. I'm seeing a hand on Robin Baird, but that has also been there for a while, so I'm not sure if that's a new hand being raised.
That's weird because it doesn't show up on my screen, Your Honor.
I think it's Craig's. Move your mouse around.
Oh, ha!
Look at that. Nope. We were seeing a strange.
Yes.
We were seeing a strange item, and the cursor was.
Okay, now I think that's actually a raised
The cursor went
hand.
from an arrow to a
That was a raised hand.
All right, so now it does appear that that is actually a raised hand. So Robin, if you would like to provide public comment, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, I would like to know when the meetings are going to be open to the public. You guys have been doing these Zoom meetings, and I know many people who would like to attend these meetings in person and be able to comment and things like that. And we don't seem to get any information as to when these are going to be open so that the public can attend these meetings. So we'd like to know that. I'm just making a public comment because I've heard that from numerous other sources, and I said, okay, I will ask. So hopefully you guys will respond to that soon and open these meetings to the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do believe we are looking at what that possibility is, so. Okay.
We are still under a county emergency declaration. And the county is not intending to lift it anytime soon at this point. The townships and city managers are all talking about how they're going to be able to transition and what the state guidance is, the CDC guidance, the county declaration, and the MIOSHA orders, and how they all tie together to alleviate. We're still waiting for a decision out of Lansing on hybrid meetings versus full-on open meeting person. So none of that guidance is coming out to give us the analysis that we should be using in order to make those decisions. I can make a recommendation on a whim, but that doesn't necessarily make it scientific or healthful. So.
And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say this. I have heard that out of your mouth at more than one open meeting. So I would like to just say that I have heard that from both our city manager and our city clerk on that. So I think they have been more than upfront with, information on this.
All right. Is there anyone else for public comment? If not, then we will close public comment. We'll move on to mayor and council reports. Mr. Chapman, do you have a report?
I do. I would like to say that I attended the Memorial Day service at the cemetery, and it was wonderful. And I got to stand next to Councilmember Skug for that event. Standing next to a veteran always makes it more important to you. I also would like to thank our city manager for having putting up the flags of our branches of the military on Division Street. I don't know how many people noticed that, but I thought that was a really, really nice touch, so thank you for that. And other than that, I don't really think I have anything else.
All right, thank you. Stu?
No report.
Okay. Diz? I don't have a report either in particular, but I will say that we talked an awful lot this evening about roads, and we have a lot of road construction planned. And so for people, the public attending the meetings, we've made a lot of progress, I think, on planning to improve, fix roads and infrastructure in the next 12 months, 16 months. So I think that's pretty cool. I know that is a big concern, and this evening we did a lot to work towards maximizing our money to be able to do that. So just wanted to point that out. So that is it for me. Craig, do you have anything? Manager's report.
Real quick, the potted baskets, the flower baskets are starting to go up tonight, so you'll start seeing those around town. So thanks to Linda Andracki and her staff and getting those out, you'll start experiencing those. They're beautiful, and I think there's approximately 90 of those going out. Thanks to North Iron Church. I don't know if you recognized it or not, but they went into our garden outside and cleaned it up and got rid of the weeds and got rid of some dead brush and put in some nice plants and started adding some mulch, and they spent the worst, hottest day so far of the year out there doing our garden. And so thanks to North Orion Church, and I have sent them a note, but
Thank you.
want to let you guys know that. And then I'm going to request to take leave the 13th through the 17th of August. It's really only 2 days, but it's more of a long weekend. Some friends come in town, so unless you have an issue with that, I'm going to schedule that time off. But I don't
Sounds
schedule a lot of leave until
I was gonna
fall
say, I
hunting
don't think
season,
you've
so
you've scheduled any time with
Yeah,
us yet,
yeah,
really,
so-
so,
very little, but
no, Craig.
anyway.
Please
Well, I just, it's
enjoy your
appropriate to
time
let you
off.
know and
Enjoy
ask for
it.
permission, right? But anyway, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Attorney's report, Caroline.
And nothing further.
Okay. And that brings us to item number 26.
Support.
All those in favor, please say aye. And I
9:29, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, the meeting is adjourned.